Hi guys, this is Zach from Watches on You. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Rolex Sky-Dweller reference 326934. So this is the new steel Sky-Dweller. And before the steel one came out, this is really kind of Rolex's, you could almost argue, flagship model in the sense that it's their highest complication model, an annual calendar. And it is also a GMT model with a very interesting setting function through the bezel, which I'll demonstrate later. But the Sky-Dweller's always been kind of the, I guess, highest end Rolex of the Oyster lineup. And it's always been their top GMT sports timepiece, or not sports timepiece, sorry, because it's available in only precious metals. Again, it's got the extra complications, and it has more classic design, you could say. But now they released this steel model, and it's actually steel and white gold because the fluted bezel is white gold, and it brought the price down a lot. This watch comes in at a new price of $14,800, which is much lower than the gold ones would be, obviously. Which I really like. I think that this is going to open this watch up for a lot more people. And I mean, they already are totally unobtainable, really, and then for it to get as brand new, as they are selling well above retail pre-owned. Now, this specific watch I have in front of me is pre-owned, and it was lent to us by JB Hudson Jewelers for the purpose of the review. Please contact them. I'll leave a link in the description to their website. Contact them if you would like to inquire about pricing on this timepiece or would like to purchase it. So now let's just get into kind of the specs of this watch. So it's got a 42mm case, stainless steel case, obviously, and it's really almost going to be, the main case is entirely polished, which again gives this watch a little bit more of an elegant look compared to the sports models, as this is a more elegant, some argue blingy Rolex. This is probably in solid gold the blingiest Rolex they make. Maybe the Yachtmaster 2, you could argue, is more blingy, but this has obviously become very popular with rappers for that specific purpose, and as well as professional sports players and things, mainly in the solid gold. But you get the 42mm case, so this really is the largest Rolex case outside of the Deep Sea and the Yachtmaster 2. Which I think the case size is fine. I don't really mind it. It is a bit thicker too, not too much, but I don't mind the extra case size as well. You see down the wrist, it's not too bad. I mean, I wouldn't really call this a dress watch because I think it is a bit too big for that. But it definitely isn't too bad to wear with a suit or anything like that. I mean, if it's very formal, then this watch would probably be a bit too flashy. But other than that, I think that the sizing is quite good. Now let's go to the dial. So the dial is interesting. So you can see it's got the very iconic center wheel there, and that is your GMT wheel, I would say, not GMT hand, where the red triangle right there, that points to the time of the second time zone, or the home time, however you choose to set it. And that's obviously going to be in 24-hour time, because so you know if it's day or night. And then you have your main hands, which are 12-hour time, and then you can see that little red square up at 12 o'clock. So there are actually little windows at every single index, so all 12 of them, and that corresponds to the month. So you can see right now it's set to January, because it's at 12, but then February and so on, going all the way around. I really like that. It keeps it extremely unobtrusive, and this is probably the most simple annual calendar I've ever seen, and I really like that. I think annual calendars and perpetual calendars, they a lot of times try to, they overfill the dial with a bunch of windows and things, and instead of having a dial to say the month, instead of having a window to say the month, they'll still have a dial that says the month, then they tell you the leap year, they tell you the year. I don't really like that, because the base purpose of a perpetual calendar, or an annual calendar as a matter, is so you just don't have to set the watch as frequently. That's why I like this. I think if you don't know the year, you have bigger problems than having a watch that doesn't say the year. Just as a joke there. And also, when are you really going to necessarily need to know if it's a leap year or not, just off the top of your head? This obviously doesn't do leap years because it's an annual calendar. It only does day of the month, but that's just kind of my philosophy on the whole perpetual calendar, annual calendar complication. So the movement in this timepiece is going to be a 9001. It's going to be an in-house manufacturer Rolex movement. So as I said, you get it's going to have a 72 72-hour power reserve, which is great. So 3 days, which if you want to set this down over a weekend or so and wear it during the work week, that would be just fine. That's what I love watches with 3-day power reserves. I think that it's just great. But now it demonstrates settings. So this movement, this is really kind of, I'd say it's party piece. So when you unscrew the crown, first position is just going to be winding. Regular winding, nothing special. Pull it out again, then you're adjusting the regular time, like a regular watch, and the GMT wheel moves along with it, as is typical. Now, usually, on a watch like this, you would be able to adjust, you'd have another position in the crown to just adjust the hour hand to then separate the GMT wheel from the main hour hand. However, on this, it probably has the easiest and best setting system I've seen on timepiece. Instead of doing that, you rotate the bezel. So I rotate it one position to the right, and then all of a sudden the crown switches and is doing the main hand. I do it another time to the right. Now it's doing the date, and the date is bidirectional. I do it one more, and then that I believe is just an open setting. It's not setting anything. So that is just a fantastic setting system, and I think that the learning curve on a setting system like that is like no other watch. I mean, anyone would be able to pick this up really and set it, especially with a complicated watch like this. It's just so simple, so easy. I love watches that are able to utilize other parts as part of the movement. Having a bezel, an exterior component of a watch, control the interior movement of that watch, I think is just a fantastic feature and mechanical feat on their part. And especially while you're remaining the water resistance of this timepiece too. It is an oyster case, so it's gonna have water resistance, as all Rolexes do. So you really aren't sacrificing anything with that, except for having a very interesting, I guess, extra aspect to it, and the water resistance is 100 meters, so it's definitely swimmable. So now let's do a wrist shot. So the clasp actually first on this, it's the non-professional clasp because this isn't a professional series watch. You have nice polished center line, keeping it a little more elegant. Very high quality, classic oyster clasp though. So let's put it on the wrist. On the wrist, this watch fits quite nicely, I'd say, my wrist. It's a bit large for my taste, I would say. It's not too bad, but it is a bit large for a more dressy timepiece. I have about a 7¼ inch wrist, 7.5, around there. Take that for reference. And I think it is a bit large. I mean, for a flash, if you want a flashy piece, I think this is great. If you want to fly more under the radar, this is definitely not the watch. I think if this was a 39, just shave 3 millimeters off, if they were able to do that, this would probably be my favorite Rolex. I really love the complications on this timepiece, and I do like the design of it quite a bit in the steel case. It's just a bit big for me, but I think most people, it's not going to be too bad. If you have a small wrist, though, definitely try this on in person before you buy it, if you're interested. Then you have, the thickness isn't too bad, though. It's about the same as a date, just possibly a tiny bit thicker, but not bad at all. Easily a cuff of a shirt will be able to slip right over this. So, again, this watch, I think, is a very good addition to the Rolex lineup. I very much like the Sky-Dweller, and I think that having a steel edition is fantastic. Again, I'll be leaving a link in the description to JB Hudson's website if you'd like to inquire about the pricing or purchasing of this timepiece. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks.